build the body, lead the home, honor God. This is where discipline meets devotion, and this is the 3F life: faith, family, fitness, and I'm your host, Connor. Today I want to talk about something that a lot of Christians don't really speak on much, and that's building wealth and money. And I think we hear all of these phrases like money is the root of all evil and things like that. And it's true, when you become consumed by money, you essentially worship it as a false idol. And so the video that I'm going to talk about, I'm not going to speak on it like from that sense of like put your whole life, all your eggs in one basket, in the basket of making money. But the Bible does teach us to make money and to build wealth for our families. And I think building wealth, you can also honor God with that wealth. You can honor God by tithing more to the church, by being able to put your family in a better position financially, and by doing other things for the kingdom of God. And there's a verse in Proverbs. It's Proverbs 13:22. It says, "A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous." And I heard this recently, and I had read Proverbs like earlier this year, but a lot of times when you're reading the Bible, those verses aren't sticking in your head. So that's why many people recommend you read the Bible multiple times or try to commit to it like on a yearly basis. But leave an inheritance for your children's children. And this is something like I heard this in a Christian wealth building conference. And before, I had a totally different perspective on finances and wealth. And just to give you a little bit of a backstory, I'm not going to be lying in this video or anything. I'll just be straightforward with how my finances are and everything. I went through a divorce last year. I raised 3 sons on my own, and finances are difficult for me. Like going through the divorce and everything, I lost a lot of things in the divorce because the assets were split. I didn't have that much as it was to begin. I had a credit card that got maxed out. Trying to buy Christmas gifts and stuff, I put those on in debt. So I've got a lot of debt and stuff that I'm trying to work through. But after realizing this, it was we don't have to think of money like it's just the worst thing in the world. We can think of it as a way for us to help our families. And that's how I'm looking at it now. And it's a way for us to honor God as well. And one thing that I went through this year, and I'm still going through this, where finances are hard. And I think it's like this for most of America, where you live check to check, essentially. Where your check comes in, you pay all your bills, and then you're waiting a week until your next check comes in, or 2 weeks until your next check comes in, to be able to survive. And this is the point that we're trying to break. And I'm going to document this journey. I'm trying to document everything that I'm doing in my life so that others can see the build. But this is one of those areas, absolutely. And what I was running into is I don't have extra money to tithe. There's no extra money. I'm living check to check. How am I tithing 10%? How do I do that? And I talked to a man that I really respect at my church. He hosts a Bible study that I take part in every Monday. And I told him about this. And he had a similar experience to me growing up, where he had a kid when he was really young. I had my first son when I was 19. So most of my life has been like this, where it's check to check. You got to pay, you got to put food on the table for your family. And I told him, I said, I just don't have the money. Where is it? I don't have the money to put 10% into the church and the tithe. And he told me, how can you expect God to bless you if you don't put things in your life in His hands? And I thought about that, and it totally changed my perspective earlier this year, where it was how can I expect God to bless me financially if I'm not even doing the bare minimum and committing my finances to Him? And so I started tithing the 10%. And I'm going to be honest, it's not easy. It's not easy to come up with that extra 10% every month. But what I do is I get paid, and that 10% goes straight to my church. And I would recommend doing it if you're a believer. That's what you've got to do with your money. You just put that money straight to the church. And you give that to God, and then you pray to God that He's going to bless you financially. And so through this weekend, this conference that I went to, I learned a lot of different skills to build wealth and different things that I can do to grow my finances. And I think what a lot of people our age don't do is just sit down and write all your bills out. Sit down and figure out, like, what do you got to do to get out of this position? And one thing that I've kind of been working on right now is this debt snowball effect. This is something that's really popular online if you listen to like Dave Ramsey or some of these other like kind of get out of debt guys. But basically what you do is you take your smallest amount of debt and you just work towards paying that off first. You put every extra penny into that. And then when you pay that off, you take the amount that you were paying towards that and then you roll it into the next amount of debt. So for example, I'll have like a little small amount of debt for like $150. That's $18 a month for a year. So I pay that off, and then I use that next $18 a month to pay off a debt that's maybe $300 a month. And so you work on this until you pay off your debts. And then once you pay off your debts, you work on building, that you build with your money to where your money pays you back, where you build extra forms of income, whether it be the stock market, whether it be crypto, whether it be real estate. And I think a lot of us in my generation find it hard to go and buy a house. It's like we're living check to check. How am I going to set aside 10% to buy a house? And the reason that it's so difficult is because we're not properly educated. We don't do the right things to be able to have the extra income to set aside 10% for a house. And we do the dumb things like going and financing a car, and I'm one of those people. Or we do the dumb things like going and blowing all of our credit card money on like gifts and stuff like that, or buying stuff around the house for yourself. So we don't have that extra money that we could be putting in the bank, or we could be investing so that we can grow our income into buying a house eventually. So this is what I'm working on now, is paying down these debts and then investing so that I can build a better life for my family. Because the thought of leaving some inheritance for my children's children is crazy to me. That is such a big thing. That's such a powerful thing. Because I watched my grandfather die, and he didn't have really anything to give to his family. He had like a car, an RV, and a truck. And he didn't have like money. He didn't have a lot of like assets or anything to set aside to give to his family. And I'm not saying like this in a sense of like, oh, I wish my grandpa gave me more or anything like that. I'm saying this in the sense of like, I want to set my children's life up to be better than mine and their children's. If you build your wealth while you're alive, you can set something up for your family, to where if your children do better than you, you've started a legacy for your family, to where your family never has to worry about bills and debt and all of these everyday finances that every American has to deal with. Think about a life like that, where your grandkids don't have to worry about anything, where your grandkids don't even know what ramen noodles are. And I say this I'm not going to act like I grew up eating ramen noodles every day or anything. I had, I've got great parents and everything like that. They did, good for themselves. But I didn't know that, like, when I started my life as an adult, having kids early, paying all the bills for a family and not having roommates or anything like that, those were just things that like were difficult for me. I wasn't able to build the wealth like I wanted to. And that's another thing I would say. Like, I tell people this all the time, like, if they haven't had kids, you're never truly going to be ready to have kids because it's something that you haven't experienced. But you can set yourself up better financially to do it. So if you're like 18, 19, 20, you got an opportunity to move out, but you can live with friends and you can split bills so that you can set aside your money, or you got an opportunity to stay at home. Don't be in such a hurry to grow up, because that's what, I moved out the moment I turned 18 just about. I'm out of the house, dealing with all the expenses and everything, learning the real world. And it wasn't even that like I needed to move out. Like I could have handled things differently so that I would have been in a better position. Or then I get a woman pregnant, have a kid, and then it's like now you got a lot of responsibilities on your plate. So that's what I'll say. Like, look into your finances, put everything together, and build a plan for your life on how you want to build your money, and what can you do for the kingdom of God. Like, what are you going to do when you have this stuff? Because there's so many different things, and when you put all of your money in God's hands and you trust that He's going to take care of you, He will. Maybe you'll get that raise that you've been working for a couple years. Maybe something else will happen where you'll just get extra money. And we don't know what that's going to be. But when you put your faith in the God, He will take care of you. He's not going to let you be homeless. And if you already are, He's going to help you get out of that position. Because you got to put all your faith in the God. And this even happened in the Bible with Job. And Job lost everything. He had nothing to his name, but he still glorified God. He still gave everything to God, and God multiplied what he had before. So if you made it this far in the video, I appreciate you. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. I just want to give insight to other people that maybe they can learn from my failures and my experiences so they don't have to repeat them themselves. And if I can just help lead some people to Christ, I will be fulfilled in this life. As always, thank you, and God bless.